Hey toy fans, D21 Beast Rob here with a bit of a redo review for you guys. I had started reviewing Green Goblin and Shocker that I picked up last weekend, courtesy of my brother Greg, but this weekend I was out shopping and I found a Black Suit Spidey figure. And since Missouri's pretty late to be receiving these figures, and because my time is somewhat limited these days, I thought I'd go ahead and take a look at all of these guys at the same time. The packaging for these figures is very similar to what we've seen before. We've got the modern Legends series logo at the top, a window box packaging that does house the figure inside as well as their accessories and Build-A-Figure pieces, and then towards the bottom we have the figure's name. The back of the packaging for each one of these figures does feature some nice glamour art. We are then treated to a bio for Shocker, Green Goblin, and Black Suit Spider-Man. And towards the bottom we've got a complete lineup of all the figures that are available in this wave. Alright toy fans, well that's the packaging. Let's finish getting these guys out of the box and see what they're all about. Here we have the Spider Friend and Foes out of the packaging, and I'm instantly taken with all three of these figures. Let's take a look at these guys one by one, starting with the figure that's genuinely new to my collection, the Shocker. Shocker is largely a reuse of parts from the old Bucky Cap mold, the same mold we saw used with his superior Foes pal, Boomerang. But Herman Schultz here does have a few pieces of sculpting to call his own. The first one I want to call out is actually the shock bracelets on his wrist, or his arms, however you want to look at it. These are really nice sculpted pieces. They've got nicks and battle damage all over them. There's even sort of a metallic paint, I guess you can call it, that's used on these that really has a nice effect. I really like the look of these things, and I'm a bit disappointed that we didn't get the same attention on the knee pads for this figure. It would have been nice to see some battle damage and nicks and scrapes in those as well. Minor complaint, but it does kind of stand out whenever you have the arm anywhere near the knee that they're just not the same. This looks much cooler. Also, the head sculpt for this guy's a bit interesting. He's got one eye that's smaller than the other one. He's almost making a Spider-Man or Deadpool style, quizzical look. Not necessarily the head sculpt I would have wanted for a Shocker figure, but it works for what it is. I do appreciate that the top of the head is actually sculpted. Otherwise, the actual quilted pattern on his costume is all deco. Not a big deal for me. Most of it seems pretty clean. If you look at the yellow long enough, though, you will see patches where the brown of the plastic does tend to kind of show through the yellow a little bit more than it needs to. Perhaps another coat of paint would have solved that, but it's not terrible. Overall, though, a very nice looking Shocker figure. No sort of articulation that's surprising at all with this figure, and he's got these great blast pieces. These, of course, are reused from Havoc that we got with the X-Men wave last year, and I believe they were even reused on Wonder Man, but I love the look of these things. It's a yellow plastic that's a slight bit translucent, and then they have a nice orange fade towards the edge, so it makes a really cool look. I mean, this looks like it popped right off of a comic book panel. And you can pose this around the figure's wrist, just like we saw with the Havoc figure. Either way you want to, you can have it around the wrist, bring it up closer to the fingers if that's how you prefer to display your guy. But overall, this is a very nice looking Shocker figure with some great accessories. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at the Black Suit Spider-Man figure. This figure is of course a reuse of our friend the Pizza Spidey mold. The only thing different is the eyes on the head sculpt. And he pairs up perfectly with the Venom figure we just received last year. This Spidey is a very familiar figure through and through. I appreciate that the wide of his costume design has been extended into the butterfly joints for this figure, as well as the abdominal crunch on both the front and the back of the figure. You can see the design extends all the way through. Great for posing. This Spidey also comes with two sets of hands, open fingers as you see displayed here, as well as a set of interchangeable fisted hands. These hands are of course appropriate for throwing punches as well as getting Spidey in some web shooting poses. However, this Spidey does not have any thwipping hands. So, for all of you fans of Spider-Man Back in Black and similar stories where Spidey wears a regular black costume and no symbiotes at play, well, we're just gonna have to learn to live without. And in case you had the clever idea of using a red Spidey hand and just painting it black, well, some further modifications are going to happen as that peg does not fit into the wrist for this figure. And finally, let's take a look at the Green Goblin. This figure is actually using a lot of parts from the Hobgoblin figure we got in the Space Venom wave last year. Everything from the boots, the chainmail, the torso, the satchel, even the pumpkin bomb accessories, although Green Goblin's is actually painted. The only difference is actually the belt pieces, the heads, and Green Goblin's got a larger glider than Hobgoblin originally came with. But a reuse of so many parts isn't necessarily a bad thing. This Hobgoblin was a really great figure. In turn, this Green Goblin figure is an equally great offering from Hasbro. Though I do have a few minor nitpicks. If you look at the back of this Green Goblin figure, he's actually got a hole in his back, and it was there on the Hobgoblin as well. Short of potential plans for reusing this mold somewhere else, and maybe they did this with Dreadnought, we have nothing to plug into his back. This would have been another great opportunity, and I'm always saying it, to give a flying character a flight stand. Now that hole is a bit tight for a Toy Biz flight stand, but you can make it work if you press hard enough. However, I'm willing to bet that those of you who regularly import your figures likely have a stand sitting around that's more appropriately sized. But seriously, Hasbro, start including flight stands. Now the other thing about this Green Goblin that I don't really care for is the way that they've handled the neckline on the costume. It's just a flat paint line that's been painted on top of that purple plastic. It wasn't an issue for the old Hobgoblin figure as his costume design doesn't show off his neck, but with Green Goblin here, I kind of wish they would have done just a little bit more sculpted detail to just kind of break up the neck detail from the torso portion of his costume. I know I'm being picky on this point, but when you get great scaled costume detail like you see on the legs and the arms here, that plain neck just really stands out to me. And speaking of great costume detail, take a closer look at the head sculpt for this figure. Absolutely maniacal. I love the different colors that they've used for the eyes, as well as the paint detail on the mouth with both the gums and the teeth themselves, and there's almost a dark wash just applied to the entire face. It's a really good looking head design. I'm a big fan. I actually think the combination of paintwork and sculpting on this Green Goblin head sculpt works a lot better than the Hobgoblin head sculpt we got from Hasbro last year. One more thing to be aware of with this Green Goblin figure are the shoulder joints. While the sculpting looks phenomenal, it does hinder the articulation a bit. I cannot get the arm going up as high as I'd like it to. You have to rotate the arm around, and sometimes you're just going to find that certain bomb holding poses don't work quite like you want them to because you can't get that shoulder joint in the exact position you need to make the pose look as dynamic as you might desire. Height-wise, all three of these figures stand at right about 6.5 inches tall. And for some size comparison, here they are compared to the 6-inch scale Marvel Legends Infinite Series Wolverine.
Hey Bob!
Yeah?
Which Black Suit Spidey are ya? Gargan or Parker?
Parker.
Great! Be a good hero and take care of that riffraff down the way, would you?
You mean Shocker and Gobby? This might work better if we Marvel team up.
I'd love to help you, kid, really. But I'm still dead in the comics and I've got a movie coming out.
Right, I guess I'll just handle this on my own then.
You're gonna die, Spider.
Foes before bros, huh?
You're welcome.
You're a jerk, Wolverine. Alright, toy fans, well that's my review of the Marvel Legends Black Suit Spidey, Green Goblin, and Shocker figures, part of the Sandman Build-A-Figure wave, released by Hasbro in, let's say, 2017. Overall, these are three figures that all deserve a spot in your collection. And all three of them serve as great replacements for previous incarnations of the same figure. Or even great entry points for new collectors if you're just getting started. Definitely check them out. And thanks for watching this review, toy fans. Do you have any figures from the Sandman wave? Which one is your favorite so far? Let me know in the comments below. You guys can always keep up with me on Twitter and Instagram at D21Beast, and I'll see you guys next time.